Work session time is, it's either 10, 12 after 10. Roll call. Mr. Adam is here. Mr. Mary Boy.
We're going to try to get him online here. St. Louis is having a hard time with their internet back there. So.
They need to take down the arch.
It's the arch. Yeah. Yeah. They're fiber optic, he said. Oh, here he is.
Rainbow Bridge.
Yeah. Okay.
In my south, so that makes a quorum. Go ahead and review the agenda.
I see we only have 2 items on there for today. There's no need to approve it. It's just a Lisbon Valley Mine Company Aquifer Exemption request. This is an update, Commissioner Gray, that you had asked that we look into and just kind of give you an update where we're at. We'll have that. Nick will give that overview. And then item 2 is the review and discussion of a new San Juan County events permit process and fees. So this will be a new item that Elaine will go over with us, and then next commission meeting you'll see this on your agenda as well.
Okay.
Commissioner Maryboy, can you hear us?
Motion
Very well.
be in order.
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Maryboy to adopt the proposed agenda for the work session, second by Mr. Adams. If there's no further discussion, call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Also. Opposed, nay. 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Motion passed. Item number 1, Lisbon Valley Mining Company Aquifer Exemption request. Mr. Sandberg.
Good morning, Commissioners. Well, I understand you wanted a little more information on the Lisbon Valley Mine proposal for in situ mining of copper. So what I've done is look through the information that the Utah Division of Water Quality has, as well as the Lisbon Valley Mining Company, and prepared this one-page summary of the items that are pertinent to that. Now, you may remember about a year ago, there was a public comment period and a public hearing on the same type of in situ operation. And as a result of the public comments at the public hearing, and as well as written, some of the documents that were out for review have been revised. And that includes the Aquifer Exemption request, as well as the bonding requirements. Now, I didn't look into the bonding requirements. I'm not financially or technically knowledgeable on that to say anything, other than that the bonding requirements have been increased for the entire mining operation. So this one-page sheet you've got before you is all about the in situ mining process. And as part of this permitting process, there's a requirement that an aquifer exemption be approved, and that has to be approved by the Environmental Protection Agency. This aquifer exemption area includes the Lisbon Valley area, and that's approximately, you may look on the map that's attached with the documents. That area that is outlined in blue is roughly 4,800 acres. And as you can see on that map, there are 3 ore bodies that they think have copper in the deposits that could be commercially mined with in situ mining. And that's the GTO on the northwest end, the Lone Wolf on the north boundary there, as well as a Flying Diamond down towards the lower end of the valley. Now, the aquifer that is proposed to be used for this in situ recovery, and that's the injection of a sulfuric acid solution into these deposits in 4 injection wells. The cluster wells are 4 injection wells at each corner, and then a central well that recovers those fluids as they're injected under pressure underground to dissolve the copper and then theoretically allow recovery of that copper in solution through the one recovery well. So the aquifer that is proposed to be used is the Burrow Canyon aquifer, and that shows on another schematic diagram that you have with you of the different geologic layers. Now, the Burrow Canyon is generally some of the Burrow Canyon is actually at the surface in Lisbon Valley, but it's generally at a depth of 200 to 900 feet below the surface. And the Burrow Canyon aquifer, as you can see on this geologic diagram, includes a Dakota sandstone as the uppermost layer of the Burrow Canyon, and then the remainder of the bulk of that is just called the Burrow Canyon Formation. And that all sits on top of what's called the Morrison Formation, which is considered to be an aquitard. And that basically slows the flow of water through that layer. It may not be totally impermeable, but it does slow, significantly reduces the flow, and acts generally as a barrier. Now, the Burrow Canyon aquifer is described as a perched water table, which means that's an isolated water table perched, so to speak, above the main regional aquifer, which I think in this situation would be the Navajo sandstone down at a deeper depth. So the Burrow Canyon aquifer is a perched water table, and it's composed of separate perched water zones. And each one of those zones is according to these documents, separated by faults. So each zone has each perched water zone has very limited lateral connections. And the geologic faults supposedly compartmentalize these zones. And according to the state, any water from individual wells would be limited to the yield from the individual blocks separated by those faults in the aquifer. Now, there's concern about what would this solution do to existing culinary water wells in the area. And basically there are 2, the Wilcox and the Stevenson wells. And those are both in use for culinary and livestock use at the present time. And these are actually outside this blue zone that was marked on the map, the Aquifer Exemption area, although right near the boundaries. But they're also within this area of review, which is a 2-mile buffer around this Aquifer Exemption zone. The Wilcox Well is approximately 151 feet deep, and that's in the Dakota Formation, which is the uppermost part of the Burrow Canyon aquifer. The Stevenson Well, the records I have, and maybe Mr. Stevenson knows differently, but it's listed as, I think, 220 feet deep, and it supposedly draws from the Navajo, but I'm not sure, according to Mr. Stevenson, whether that's correct.
Right, I believe it is, but I'm not sure.
Okay. There are 2 other wells in this area, and they're also shown on this map, and I know it's difficult to see, but they are within this Aquifer Exemption zone, and they are also named, there's another Wilcox Well and a Patterson Well, but they are dry holes or they are abandoned to current use. Now, before any permit to proceed with this type of mining can be either approved or denied. If it's approved, there are two main conditions that must be met before any permit can be approved. One of them being that Lisbon Valley Mining Company must demonstrate that the injection fluids, the acid solution, will be contained in the exempted portion of the aquifer. And that exempted portion is that blue line area, roughly 4,800 acres on the map. Secondly, Lisbon Valley Mining Company must also demonstrate that the monitoring system, the monitoring well system that would be put in place prior to mining in situ, they must demonstrate that the monitoring system can detect any movement of that solution or water, either vertically or horizontally, laterally, once it's injected in the ground. So basically, the document that's out for comment now is what I would consider to be Utah Division of Water Quality's draft decision on the aquifer exemption. And they basically state that the aquifer exemption area is not currently serving as a source of drinking water and that it cannot serve as a potential source of future drinking water because it contains minerals that are expected to be commercially producible. And I guess the main mineral there would be the copper. And the Division of Water Quality is requesting this exemption due to the above findings that I've mentioned through here, along with their statement that there is strong evidence for natural containment, and that's the faults that are in the area. Strong evidence for natural containment as well as operations containment systems that would be required by the permitting process. And those operation containment systems would be the pressure tests, the hydrologic pressure that they would monitor as they inject the fluid and as they recover it, as well as these monitoring wells that would determine whether there's any lateral or vertical movement of the solution. And maybe we can go back to that map which shows the aquifer exemption area. The legend on that, and it might be, I don't know if you got a paper copy or your screen copy. If you look at the screen, if you expand that, you can see that with that expand, Mac, increase in size.
Where are you looking at?
I'm going to look at the Wilcox Well on the eastern boundary.
Okay, right there.
That Wilcox Well is noted as the green, I believe that's a green triangle on the screen. And then just to the west of that, along the boundary, are proposed monitoring wells. And I think one of those monitoring wells is covered by the yellow circles with a dot. There are two different monitoring wells. One is for the Morrison and the Navajo Aquifer monitoring, and the other is for the one I think is covered, is the proposed Burrow Canyon Aquifer monitoring wells. So there would be some monitoring wells, basically, I guess you could call that upslope in the canyon from the Wilcox Well. And on the Stevenson Well, I'm not sure that there are any in that immediate vicinity. The other monitoring wells are towards the northwest in parts of the aquifer exemption area. So that's the monitoring system they're proposing and state that would have to be in place and be capable of ensuring that there's no lateral or vertical movement of the injection fluid. Well, that's a pretty short summary of what this amounts to. Basically an information summary from the documents that are out for public review as to the aquifer exemption. Do you have any questions for me that I might be able to answer?
How stable or controlled are the solution, injected solution, guarantee that it's not going to go beyond the what's been designated on lateral seepage.
I don't know that there's any guarantee. I don't know anything in life is 100%, but they would have these monitoring wells that would show whether there is that leakage. And I believe I read in one of these documents they have done some hydrologic or pressure testing as they inject water into the ground to see what I don't know even what the term would be, the hydrology or the hydraulics of that injection system. So they've done some testing, and there's some knowledge on that. There are some current in situ mines in operation or have been in operation in south central Arizona, around Florence, Arizona, which is roughly between Tucson and Phoenix, and then near Wilcox, Arizona, where copper has been recovered with this same method. But I don't think there's any in situ mining that's done for copper in Utah. There is in situ mining for other minerals, including uranium and potassium, using the same basic principle. So it's not like it's a new technology, but it is new for this area and for these deposits and these formations. So I really can't give you a good answer, Commissioner, on that.
Yeah, since the formation that you mentioned there is porous formation, and the water that are caught in that formations are literally just flowing whatever might be available to the set up space. So that's the reason why. The other question concern is there any possibility of neutralizing over time of this? So for acid, will it be remaining for lifetime, so to speak?
The proposal includes the injection of that solution in the 4 wells around each central collection well. And I don't know how many wells would be in operation in one particular, say, whether it's the GTO or the Lone Wolf and the others. I don't know how many wells would be in operation at any one time. But let's just take one. Let's say one of the ore deposits, a GTO. There'd be some wells drilled into that formation. The fluid would be injected. And then, as proposed, as they're recovering this solution and taking the copper out of it, and then re-injecting a new, or maybe it's the modified or the cleaned solution after they've taken the copper out of it. They've got these tests, the hydrology, the pressure tests that they're running all the time on this. And once all the copper has been leached out or recovered that they think is commercially feasible, they'll shut down operations for the recovery, and they'll start a flushing. They'll put fresh water back into the system, flush it out and collect it, and supposedly keep flushing that until all the solution is basically gone or cleaned to the degree technically possible at the time. So that's the closure of the mining operation of in situ, is to flush the aquifer once all the ore has been extracted, and at least try to restore that aquifer to the condition it was before mining. I don't know if that answers your question or not. But supposedly that solution wouldn't remain in the ground. It's supposed to be flushed out.
There's no guarantee that it's going to be clean 100%.
Probably not, to my knowledge.
Say, for future use, either livestock or potable water. If it's for agriculture or livestock, then you're subject to this substance ingesting it. So the whatever might be developed within that area when the mine is done and gone, yes, the reclamation would probably be in place, and there are opportunity for development or
I would-
something.
I'm going to just say something I'm not qualified to say. I'm assuming that the Utah Division of Water Quality would have to monitor that water when the flushing process is done, and as while it's in progress, to ensure that that water quality gets back to pre-mining. Now, like I say, I don't know that for sure, but I would think the Division of Water Quality is tasked with maintaining good water quality in the state of Utah, so I think they would do that.
On the other hand, what kind of impact does our fiscal year budget will it have from this type of activity?
I guess the whole reason the mining company is proposing this is they think they've just about extracted all the copper they can with the open pit mining techniques. Or they're close, Commissioner Adams, or not. So they've still got some open pit.
We went on a tour last week, and they've got plans for a bigger open pit operation.
Okay.
Yeah, they,
And what they're saying, at least in this document, is that there are other copper deposits that they can't commercially reach with open pit. So they want to try to inject to bring that copper up in solution. And I think this proposal, if it is approved, is roughly a 25-year operation, according to these diagrams, from year one to year, maybe it was 25 or 28 years. And that includes that into mining flushing recovery rehabilitation process.
yeah, I think they plan a much larger open pit operation, don't they, Mac?
Yes, next door.
Than what they've even got right now.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, they'll move to
It,
the next.
Indicated they want to do a combination of both, the in situ process and the open pit.
And if they do this in situ, that would basically extend the life of that entire either pit or underground mining operation, as I understand it.
Yeah. Instead of doing the acid leaching above, then they're pushing it down inside and so on, pumping
Okay.
it back out.
All right.
One of the answers to your question, Commissioner Gray Eyes, is on does it affect general fund? They've been making payments on their scheduled on their contracted payment, so they've been catching up to the amount that they owe for several years now. Since last year, they've been making those payments, and so
They made $291,000 on on one part of their aging debt, $267,000 on part of their aging debt. They paid their taxes in 2021, which was $239. They will owe $243 on their taxes in 2022. So you take those three things, and that's over $1 million that they paid to the county in their tax bill. They still owe a little over $1 million on their aging debt from several years back, but they pay that at the rate of about $25,000 a month.
so they are catching up.
Hello?
That needs to be in the report.
Yeah, well, and that's where this is just more of a discussion through the work session. Then yeah, if we were presenting to the commissioners in a commission meeting with the public information, we would make sure that that was in the total report. This is mainly just the information that you had requested us to look into. That BC aquifer, it's kind of a little bit unique in here where, because of the geological formations and everything, it has the separation of that BC aquifer. That water in itself right now is undrinkable for either human consumption or animal as well. They don't recommend either or drink out of that BC aquifer as it is right now, just because of the mineral content, the concentration of that in this, because of that, it's been captured right there in that fault layer where it can't permeate out. They look at that as it's a no-go water system as it is right now that they would be pumping into.
Hello?
So the sets, it's, you can't use it
Can't use
as
it
it
at all.
is now.
No, correct.
But when it's, let's say when the project is done and pumping and purification is done, and it's going to be adequate for use.
I wouldn't even think it not now or no in the future. Everybody's around there. The springs are a lot deeper into that Navajo aquifer, but that BC aquifer, they're like, it's not a
Okay.
good area.
Hello?
Kenneth's trying to get,
Hello?
say something.
Hello, Kenneth. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning. Right below Globe, Arizona, there's a place called El Sarco. They're smeltering copper, everything, right in Mammoth, near Globe. The process is very, very nasty to extract these, and the chemical that is being used to inject to layers to separate copper and the debris. That much that I know, but other than that, thank you for your information, Nick. But as a county, are we soliciting comment from nearby residents and ranchers regarding their concerns for the aquifer and contamination, and maybe a long-term impact? Are we doing that now?
No, we're not. No, we're not tasked to do that, Kenneth. That's the State Division of Water Quality that holds those hearings, and they've been holding those hearings for a while, where people can comment to the state. That's not something that we the county oversee.
So whatever the impact comes in, we just pucker up and just hang on for the ride and have them do what they need to do, or do we have a right to raise a concern in behalf of our community in San Juan County?
They have to post a bond for the reclamation of the whole area. The copper mine does, and that's required by the State Division of Water Quality and Oil, Gas, and Mining. I don't know who is tasked with overseeing that process, but they do have to post a bond, which is similar to insurance, so that when they discontinue the mining process, that everything is reclaimed. And if the mining company doesn't do it, then the bond will kick in, and the state will hire somebody to do it using the bond money to reclaim all of the copper mining property, the way I understand it.
Yeah, okay. Well, at some point in time, as commissioner, we're going to have to approve to vote on this. If that happens, this exemption, the county should get some kind of a public input.
No,
That's
you're
the
wrong,
way I'm
Kenneth.
looking at it.
We don't ever vote on this. This is totally in the hands of the state. The state conducts the public hearings. The state issues the exemption, or they issue the permit. I think the BLM's involved in the permitting process too, aren't they, Nick?
They would be after the state. I think this is
Yeah.
the first step before BLM would even look at the mining operation to either approve or modify or disapprove.
Well, I just, the county, we don't have to vote on it. We don't have to act on it. It's all done by State Division of Water Quality and State Division of Mining.
Wow, that's pretty scary. At some point in time, somehow, the county and the community should weigh in on this concern, because it's a huge impact. And of course, the money's good. The money's going to be good, but those of us that are around to enjoy that money is not going to be here long enough to be around to be concerned about those that are going to be impacted by this. That's my concern. Thank you.
No further question or comment? Thank you very much. Next would be,
We can touch on it real quickly. I don't know if. Hey Nick, will you check see if Elaine's out there? She may not be out in the hall.
she just left.
Elaine. If not, kind of what we're looking at here in the county, we do not have a special events process. So if, say for example, a filming company comes in, or last year we had Rally on the Rocks that came to the county, an event like that. We don't have a permit process. So take, for example, like the Rally on the Rocks. The Rally on the Rocks, they'll reach out and they'll contact our sheriff department. They'll contact our public health or our ambulance services if they need assistance on that type of a process. Hey, Elaine, I'm just kind of giving an overall summary of where we're at, but for Rally on the Rocks, that type of example, what we'd like to do is establish a permit process with fees associated with that. So when Rally on the Rocks do come to us and then they need the services, there's an application form that we'll have them fill out and try to fit them in the box of what we define as the event that they're going to have, make sure that it's within the restrictions and the guidelines that we have, but then also a coordinated effort with the sheriff department, EMS, public health, to make sure that San Juan County, that we're providing all the services necessary to do so in that process. And so it kind of gives a one-stop shop. It's kind of overseeing all of the events in general through the county, and then making sure that they're viable, that they're actually being covered by San Juan County services, instead of in the past, if an event comes here, we have no way of really knowing if they're an honest event. So like the Jeep Jamboree has been taking place for years here. Jeep Jamboree has been notifying the State Tax Commission. They've been reporting their sales tax and everything up to the tax commission. Well, I would strongly feel good about saying that not all of our events are doing so. And so this puts a process that comes to light within San Juan County, but then we can also monitor and make sure that they're actually that they are registered and set up through the State Tax Commission if there is sales tax and items being sold. There at Rally on the Rocks, they had a couple giveaways. I think they had one side by side that they gave away. Well, that's sales tax and everything that needs to be recovered here in San Juan County. So if they're not reporting that into the Tax Commission, we're losing out on that revenue, that potential revenue with some of these permits. We had a couple months ago, we brought before the commission on an alcohol license, a temporary alcohol license, where they had that climbing event where they were training a bunch of climbers out there a little bit further to the north. That type of event, we would be able to then charge them for the size of the event, make sure that they have the liquor license, make sure that they also have the EMS sheriff coverage as well at a charge that's stated in here as well. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add on there.
I'm were they training them before or after they consumed the alcohol?
I know that's exactly that was so. I think Mr. Gray is.
Great question.
Yeah.
In my former position in Grand County, all of the special events went through my office, and we collected, all of the application and all of the necessary requirements. I mean, we really made a point to make sure that we're protecting the county. And since all of our infrastructure is being used in the county, roads, water, whatever, and a lot of these events are for-profit events because they're businesses that these, individuals run. So I really think that having this structure in place for San Juan County protects the county. It really puts the residents, first to protect, as it says here, the health and safety and welfare of all the persons in the county instead of just people coming in and willy-nilly having events and we don't know what's going on. So it would be a bit of a change, but we would make sure that we get that message out to the public so that they understand if they're coming to San Juan County, we have an official registration application. You're required, as Max said, to make sure that you've got all of your licensing, your tax, your everything before we would approve the event to take place in San Juan County, and it could generate obviously much needed revenue. Just for an example, for the business licenses that we implemented, that process, we generated a little more than $4,000 last year in business licenses, and now we're going through the renewal. So everything that we can do that can help our county bring in revenue and keep things in order and make sure that we're protecting the county, I definitely think this is the way to go. Granted, it's sort of the beginning process. I could have put a whole lot more in here, but I think with us just starting now with the new process and new to everyone coming in here, I think this is a great way to begin and having and implementing this ordinance.
In Grand County, what was your cleanup fee assessment on special events?
Cleanup, well, we, I don't remember what the amounts were, but the event holders were responsible for, obviously for that process. We had to make sure they were recycling, making sure,
Did you make them deposit a certain amount that they got back after they
No, we
cleaned
did.
up?
We
or did
didn't. We did not, and I'd have to say that would depend. No, we did not charge a fee up front, but I would think that it would depend on the type of event and the size of the event. That might be something we would want to consider.
We have
Well,
that
then,
in here.
That's in here,
Yeah,
in
we've
section 6, cleanup fee assessment
yeah. There's
assessed. But I didn't know what the amount might be or anything, but that's fine.
yeah. We would have to look at the
Yeah.
actual.
We'd have to look at the
Event.
application, and I think we would see how many. If they were expecting 1,000 people and where it was, and I think I think that has to be, part of the consideration. And then we can determine whether we'd want them to put a deposit down depending on where,
And then,
where the location is.
do we, depending on the size of the group, do we ask them to bring in porta potties or anything?
Yes, we absolutely did do that prior. We had, in fact, we had hand washing stations installed just due to protection for COVID. We had masks that I have masks that we ordered that if they needed masks, we could supply those. But hand washing stations, and I'm not sure if we have a company. I know Zunich Brothers does it in Grand County. Not sure if we have a company here in San Juan that does it. But to me, the porta potties are definitely something that should be, and I think hand washing stations too would probably be appropriate during this time.
Yeah. And that's part of this, the whole process, bringing it all together as we can then, as the applicant comes in, describing what their event is and determining what type of level, if it's a level 1 event on up, depending on how many people there are, as we involve public health with their mass gathering process as well, then we'll be able to line out, okay, if you have 100 people, this is going to equate to 5 porta potties or
Right.
whatever the case is.
If
And
they
so,
require an ambulance on site or
Mhm.
or a sheriff's officer on site, do we charge a fee for that? or
additional
is that-
fees.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And if, especially if they're in a very remote area and they're trying, have had experiences where they're very remote and we have to work out the arrangements with the sheriff's department and what they charge, and then they have to pay those additional fees, or for EMS, whatever those fees are, depending on how far out they are. But I also think that this gives us an opportunity, and my goal would be to go out and secure more events, organized events, where we could bring in more revenue, bring in more hotel TRT tax and sales tax. So if we've got this in place, this gives us the ability to really reach out. And I know all of the event holders
Okay.
prior, and I'd like to reach out to them and let them know what we've got available here.
So this is a proposal that you're making that this ordinance will come back in commission meeting today or next
Yeah,
week?
we basically wanted you to go over this, just to see if there's anything that you might want to add in here, if there was anything that we missed, or if you have any thoughts on it. I think, Mac was instrumental in helping with laying out the content, but
Question,
yes.
does this also apply to the fair? San Juan County Fair events?
No, that one's
No,
separate.
that would
Where
be-
that's a county
Yeah.
function. This is more non-county
Right.
functions. Last year we had several events that took place at BFE, the rock crawler events that.
The other one is, what about the Ute Power?
The Ute Powwow,
Is that
the
isolated?
bear
Was it
dance.
there? Yeah.
So no, that I don't know. I don't see any governance or authority that we have over the reservations. Similar with the Navajo Nation, we wouldn't be able to charge or have an event process outside of what the Navajo Nation has. Same with the Ute tribe. So I don't see how we could regulate them.
Let's say Utah and Navajo, if they gather,
That would be an event. As a nonprofit organization having an event. Mm-hmm.
I assume at the Bears Ears site up there in the mountains, they would be impacted. The other one is if they have a property and they gather on that property and that's to function an activity,
Mm-hmm.
will that impact
Same.
this impact?
Yeah.
I think it might be to the county's advantage to at least have people that are looking to have an event, maybe they wouldn't be charged in those cases, but have them fill out just an application so we know who the event holder is and how many people they're expecting, just sort of in case. But I mean, that would be my recommendation. They wouldn't be charged anything, but we would have an event calendar, which we have an event calendar now, but a more expansive event, because most of the events that we have, we want to let the public know what we have going on, especially if there are visitors coming and there's some kind of a cultural event. We try to publish, all the events that are happening in San Juan County. So I mean, it could. I don't think it would be mandatory, but I think it would be good to at least know who that person is, and maybe we could help facilitate, if they have questions or whatever.
The reason why I questioned the, let's say, UTEP Navigator, it would be a requesting site event of the BLM.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we would coordinate. The BLM a lot of times reaches with us.
Right.
Coordinates that.
Yeah.
How would it be coordinated would be my question.
Well, we work with the BLM in my prior work. We worked very closely with all the land agencies. Whoever needed a permit, we knew who was getting an approved permit from the BLM and when. And so we had that communication so that we understood that they were approved for a permit. I think it's us communicating directly with the land agencies to know what they're approving, because sometimes people will go directly first to the BLM, obviously, to get their permitting since they have to work further out, and then come to us for their application. But this way, if we're in contact with the BLM, they can inform us of what permits they're approving, so we kind of know that up front. Does that answer your question?
Will they be charged? I don't know if they.
From the BLM,
charges,
there could be, depending on whatever.
and also would be double charging.
No, I think whatever the permit charges would be from the BLM would be because it's a land agency charging those fees, but our fees would be because we're trying to, protect our community, but also recover costs for roads, water, whatever our, infrastructure would, usage
Fire,
of our
police,
infrastructure.
EMS.
Pardon me?
Fire, police.
Fire,
EMS.
police, EMS, exactly. Sheriff, if the sheriff has to be called out or if there is a fire that starts. I'm familiar with cases where large, groups have gotten together and there were substances that were taken and EMS had to show up. I mean, you're dealing with the public, so all types of things can happen. So I think for us, it protects the county and helps us to be prepared.
Okay.
And we appreciate any input you may have regarding this request. And as well with the application, if you think there's anything I need to revise on that.
Looked pretty good to me.
No more questions, comments? Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, we just need a motion to adjourn and then we'll get ready for that next one.
I'm going to make a motion to adjourn, but before that, the young lady that made the presentation, I would like to thank her. And any kind of special events or audiences that's being brought to us, I think it's great. If there's any mud bog or ATV coming by nearby, let me know. I'm on it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Burrow.
A second motion.
Motion made to adjourn, second, and vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. Opposed, nay. 3 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, so we're out of that meeting. You can open the doors. Yep. Let him in.
Don't leave. Don't leave.
I'll check on my horse.
So are we going into executive session?
No. We didn't have time.